Hey friends, tonight we're stepping behind the thick stone walls of a medieval monastery, where voices are hushed, days begin in darkness, and the silence is more than just quiet. It's a rule. If slow immersive history helps you unwind, be sure to like and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it there? It's strangely comforting to see who else is drifting off to the past. Now dim the lights. Take a breath and step into the cold corridors of another world. Imagine your breath forming clouds in the darkness. The stone floor beneath your thin straw mat offers no comfort. The bell hasn't rung yet, but you're already awake. You always are. You live by the rule of Saint Benedict. Written centuries ago, enforced silently. No one needs to scold you. The rhythm of obedience has worn its grooves into your bones. Your robe is coarse, the color of earth. You tie it with a frayed rope. No mirror, no vanity. You run a hand through your hair, or what's left of it, tonsured, shaved in the pattern of humility. You are not your own. You rise with the rest, moving through the darkened dormitory. No talking, only the scuff of sandals on stone. You file into the chapel, narratory they call it, lit by a few flickering candles. You do not yawn, you do not stretch. You bow. Matins begins before sunrise. Latin verses chanted in low unison. The same words you chanted yesterday. The same you will chant tomorrow. Time here is circular. You pray for souls you will never meet, for sins you have not committed, for a world you no longer belong to. After matins comes the first work. Today it is your turn in the kitchen. You stoke the fire, haul buckets of water, prepare a thin barley gruel. You don't cook for pleasure. You cook to nourish obedience. At prime, the first full hour of daylight, you gather again, seated in silence. The abbot reads aloud from the rule. You listen with eyes lowered. One brother falls asleep. He is struck once gently on the back of the head. No one reacts. Discipline is a kindness. Correction a gift, then comes labor. The heart of the day. You tend to the herb garden, kneeling in the dirt beside rows of sage and wormwood. Not for flavor, for medicine. For the sick, for the dying. You have copied manuscripts too. Dipping quills into ink, scratching Latin onto calfskin parchment. But you are no scholar. You are not chosen for brilliance, only for willingness. In the refectory, you eat in silence as a brother reads aloud from scripture. Lentils. Bread. Watered wine you chew slowly. You do not ask for more. You are not here for pleasure. After sext, the midday prayer, the sun passes overhead, but it means nothing. You are not permitted idle rest. You repair sandals, you scrub the flagstones. You wash the altar cloths with icy water from the well. You chant as you work, not out of joy, but to keep your thoughts from wandering. Some days you tend to the infirm, others the pigs, some days the graveyard. You are not allowed to own a single object, not even the cup you drink from. If you fall ill, another will take your place. If you die, your name will be spoken once in prayer, then absorbed into the silence. But you do not complain. You do not even whisper. In this place, silence is not absence. It is structure. It is worship. It is the closest thing to peace. Tonight, after Compline, you will return to your mat. You will not write in a journal. You will not dream of another life. You will simply close your eyes and surrender once again to the rhythm. Now let us follow the stones beneath your feet, through time, into the inner sanctum of this ancient world, the scriptorium, where memory is inked by hand and eternity begins in margins. The door creaks open on stiff iron hinges. The smell hits first, old vellum, melted wax, damp stone, and the faint sweet trace of lamp oil. This is the scriptorium, the monastery's mind. Not all brothers are permitted here. It is not a place of imagination or invention. It is a place of reproduction. The careful preservation of knowledge, approved knowledge. No flights of fancy, no authorship. Only obedience, precision, and the unbroken chain of transmission. The walls are thick, window slits narrow. The air is cold even in summer. Rows of desks, carrels really, each equipped with a slanted wood surface, inkpots carved into the side. Lamps burn low to conserve oil. Your eyes must adjust. There is no glass in the windows, only linen soaked in wax to filter the wind. You work with gloves in winter. You breathe shallowly to avoid moisture on the page. You were not chosen for artistry. That is the work of the illuminator, seated at the far end beneath a patch of better light. His tools are brushes, crushed minerals, and powdered gold. Yours are humbler. A quill made from the feather of a goose, a knife to sharpen it, a ruler, a stone for blotting, and parchment. Calfskin stretched and scraped to translucence. You dip your quill into the ink, dark, pungent, made from oak galls and iron salts. It clings to the tip like blood and you begin. Each line must be ruled beforehand, every margin measured. Your hand must be steady, your letters consistent. A misspelling, a blot, a poorly formed loop. Then hours of work are scraped away and you begin again. The page is not cheap, the labor not yours to waste. You write not for yourself but for God, or more precisely, for God's memory. Psalters. Gospel books, the Rule of St. Benedict. Text for the Abbey's library, copies for other houses. Occasionally the writings of long-dead philosophers, filtered through church doctrine. Always in Latin, always in silence. You are not permitted to embellish the words. But sometimes, in the quiet corners of the page, the monks rebel. A small face peeks from the capital Q. A fish swims between lines. A cat with human eyes crouches in the margin. These are not mistakes. They are quiet voices. Hidden laughter. A trace of soul in a sea of obedience. Hours pass, your legs stiffen. Your back aches, you dare not stand until the bell. You warm your fingers beneath your robe. The ink grows sluggish in the cold. The page warps, your eyes blur. But still, you write. One brother whispers a verse to himself. He is copying Isaiah. Another mouths a prayer. His lips do not touch sound, the illuminator hums. The tune is unplaceable, perhaps remembered from youth. No one corrects him. At none, the bell tolls. You place a blotting stone atop the page. You clean your tools, you do not bookmark your place. You will remember, outside the world turns without you. Kings marry. Battles rage, plagues bloom. But within these walls, the year is always the same. The labor never ends. For every book completed, another begins. Sometimes you copy a book you have copied before. The text becomes a rhythm, then a blur, then a hum beneath your ribs. You no longer read it, you become it. And yet, there is meaning in the motion. You are preserving civilization, or at least, the version of civilization permitted by the church. Many of the texts you copy will survive the collapse of kingdoms, the burning of cities, the decay of time. Centuries from now, a scholar will run a gloved hand over your words. They will call your script Carolingian minuscule or Gothic hand. They will assign you a catalog number, a shelf, a name not your own. But you are not writing for them. You are writing because it is the next right thing. The page, the prayer, the silence. The rule does not ask for recognition, only continuation. The bell tolls again. You file out in silence, leaving behind the warmth of the lamps and the ghost of your breath upon the page. You do not glance back, you do not linger, because tonight it will be your turn to tend the dying. And so, the bell tolls again, low and distant. You rise, this time not for prayer, but for duty of another kind. The hallway leading to the infirmary is colder than the rest of the abbey. Dampness clings to the stone like a second skin. The scent here is unlike the chapel or the kitchen or the scriptoria. It is sharper, a mingling of herbs, old sweat, beeswax, and the slow rot of human decline. The infirmary is a long, narrow chamber at the edge of the cloister. Its windows are small and high, designed not for light but for protection. The light that does filter through arrives in golden shafts, dust hanging thick inside each beam. Beds, little more than straw-stuffed pallets, line the walls, each separated by a thin curtain of linen. There are no names written anywhere. No titles, just breathing, coughing, groaning. You tend to them in silence. This morning your hands are wrapped in cloth, not for sanitation, but to keep warm. One of the older brothers, Brother Edric, is nearing his final sleep. His skin is gray in the hollows, yellow in the eyes. He no longer speaks. He only watches, blinking slowly, like a shutter closing by degrees. You lift a cup of broth to his lips. He doesn't drink, you wipe it away gently. A novice across the room coughs into a rag. You hear the wetness in it, you do not react. Instead, you rise and carry it to the basket in the corner. Another brother will wash it later, maybe you. At the rear of the infirmary is the apothecary bench. A long table layered with drying herbs, mortar and pestle, flasks of tisanes and tonics. You prepare a tisane of yarrow and lavender, not because it will cure, but because it will ease. Just a little. Time stretches here even more than in the chapel. There is no chanting, no pacing of the hours. The sick groan and sigh at irregular intervals. Some sleep, some mutter prayers in their fevered haze. You move among them like a shadow, present but never interrupting. Once, before you entered the monastery, death may have frightened you. But here it is routine. Not welcome exactly, but expected, even respected. When a brother dies, you will ring a handbell and 3 times him and cover his body with the white cloth kept folded at the foot of every bed. His name will be spoken at vespers. Not eulogized, just spoken. Then return to silence. Between tending the weak, you scrub chamber pots, carry slop buckets, change linens. The work is unpleasant, but not resented. This is your offering. You do not serve to be seen. You serve because someone must. That is the essence of life here. Occasionally, villagers from outside the abbey gates are permitted entry. The wounded, the desperately ill, those whom the brothers believe still have time. Their arrival breaks the monotony of the sick room. A girl with a festering wound from a pig bite. A laborer whose leg has turned black after a fall. These are not your brothers, and yet you kneel beside them just the same. The monastery does not charge for care, but it does not invite company either. The outer world is held at a respectful distance, not from cruelty, but from necessity. The purity of silence must be preserved. Evening draws near. You light candles at the foot of each bed. One of the novices hums a psalm under his breath too softly to be punished. You do not stop him. The sound is not unwelcome. Brother Edric is still alive, but barely. His eyes have closed. His chest rises only occasionally like a bellows long out of rhythm. You dip a cloth in rose water and wipe his brow. A final act of comfort, and when complaint sounds, you bow your head, then step quietly from the infirmary, because tomorrow another brother may take your place, and you will be in the orchard beneath the weight of another kind of burden, the sacred tending of the vines. The air is different here, earthier, brighter. The scent of wet soil and sun-warmed leaves replaces the cold sterility of the infirmary. Just beyond the cloister wall, tucked into the southern slope of the monastery's land, the vineyard stretches in neat, obedient rows. Vines wind their way around rough-hewn stakes, their tendrils clutching skyward. This is not the grand vineyard of a noble estate, but it is still sacred ground. Your tools are simple: a curved knife, a wicker basket, a sun-bleached hood. There is no ceremony in your labor, but there is rhythm. And rhythm is a kind of prayer. You begin with the pruning, cutting back what is wild, what is excessive, what would bear fruit too early or too late. The rule applies here too. Moderation, discipline. Vines, like thoughts, must be tamed if they are to yield anything of value. Other brothers work nearby, but you do not speak. The only sounds are the snip of blades, the rustle of leaves, the quiet hum of bees that nest in the crumbling stone wall nearby. A few birds call out overhead, their songs distant and unbothered. Your basket fills slowly with discarded clippings. You leave the grapes for now. They are weeks away from harvest, but you study them even now. You note their fullness, their shadows. You calculate what the weather has done to them and what it has yet to do. Wine in the monastery is not indulgence, it is sacrament. Each drop destined for mass, for communion. The vine's fruit becomes the blood of ritual. You do not forget that. In the midday sun, your robe sticks to your back. Dust gathers at your ankles. The rope belt digs into your waist. Still, you do not remove it. Comfort is not your concern. The discomfort reminds you of your place, between soil and sky, between silence and service. Once, long ago, you tasted wine before it was blessed. You remember it sharply on a dry, red alive. You felt guilt after, not because it was forbidden, but because it reminded you of the world beyond the walls, the world of feasts and songs and warm hands. That memory faded like all others. Occasionally, the cellarer visits, the brother charged with managing the stores. He checks your work, nods silently, then disappears down the slope toward the fermentation cellars. You do not envy his position. You are content here, among the leaves and dust. As the sun sinks lower, shadows lengthen across the vines. You tie up the shoots that have wandered, straighten the supports, pull weeds with your bare hands. A bee stings your wrist. You do not cry out. You press the spot gently, then return to work. Pain is like prayer. It draws your focus inward. Before you leave, you kneel in the earth and press your hands into the soil, not out of piety, out of habit, out of thanks. The soil accepts you without question the way the monastery once did. You carry the clippings back in your basket, leaving no trace behind. As you pass beneath the archway into the cloister again, the smell of incense returns faintly on the air. The bells will soon ring for vespers, and while others prepare to sing, you descend the stone stairs behind the chapel, where rows of ancient barrels wait in silence. Tonight you will work in the wine cellar, where darkness has a taste and the silence is sealed in oak. It is always cooler down here. As you descend the stone steps behind the chapel, the light fades with each footfall. Shadows thicken, the air turns damp, dense, and still. You pause at the bottom, not out of fear but reverence. This space beneath the monastery breathes differently, slowly, like something asleep. Your hand finds the iron ring of the cellar door. It opens with the reluctant groan of old hinges. Inside, rows of oak barrels stretch into the gloom, stacked like ancient sentinels. They hold not just wine, but memory. Labor time. There are no candles lit, but you've walked this path many times. You know every uneven flagstone, every drip of condensation that forms on the ceiling and falls at regular intervals. In a place without clocks, even that rhythm becomes familiar. Tonight you have been assigned to check the wine. A privilege, a responsibility. A silence within silence. The cellar is the charge of the cellarer, but not even he comes often. This chamber is rarely disturbed. Its stillness protects the fermentation. You carry a single tool, a small brass thief, a curved tube used to draw liquid from the cask. Not for drinking, for inspecting. You move from barrel to barrel, pressing your ear to each, listening. If there is bubbling, the yeast is still working. If there is nothing, the wine is resting. If you hear gas or hissing, something is wrong. You do not record your findings on parchment. You remember. You remember by scent, by sound, by weight. There is no rush. The wine will not spoil today. Time in the monastery does not move forward. It settles, like sediment. At one barrel, you insert the thief, draw a measure of wine, and hold it to the dim shaft of moonlight cutting through a slit in the stone wall. The color is rich, deep, promising. You swirl it gently, noting the legs, the clarity. You smell it. Earth ash, fruit humility. You will not taste it, not yet. Not without the abbot's permission. Wine here is not for indulgence, it is for Eucharist. It is the blood of ritual. To drink it without sacrament would be to drink a lie. You replace the thief, move on. In a far corner of the cellar sits a barrel unlike the others. Smaller, older, carved with Latin inscriptions. No one speaks of it. Some say it came from Rome, others from a crusader's journey. You have never touched it, you never will. Not out of superstition, but out of hierarchy. Some things are not for you. You find a small puddle near one of the newer barrels. Leak, you fetch a cloth. Kneel, mop it up slowly. Even this task is holy. In the rule, it is written, idleness is the enemy of the soul. You remain useful, present. Invisible hours pass unnoticed. When you finally emerge, your hands are stained a dull red from the few drops that touch them. You wash them with cold water in the cloister basin, scrubbing in silence. Above, the moon has risen fully. The last prayer of the day, Compline, has ended. The brothers are already asleep. You walk alone through the corridor, the scent of oak still in your robe. The stars glimmer faintly beyond the arched windows. But sleep is not yet yours. For beyond the cloister, beyond the fields and vines, lies the forest. And tomorrow, you will go with the foraging brothers, into the thickets where silence is broken only by branches and eyes in the dark. The gates creak open before dawn. You carry a woven basket, empty for now, and a short staff, less a weapon than a walking aid. The others are already waiting. 5 brothers robed and hooded, faces turned toward the east. They do not speak, they nod once. Then together you step beyond the monastery walls. The air is wet with dew. Grass clings to your sandals. Mist drapes the earth like a burial shroud. And ahead of you, the forest. The monastery owns it, technically. All the trees, the moss, even the creatures. But no one here speaks of possession. You do not own the forest. You ask permission to enter. Each footfall is careful. The path is narrow, worn not by feet but by time. The trees begin to crowd in. Branches scratch at your robe. The birds have not yet begun their songs. This too is silence, but not the kind you practice in the cloister. This silence watches you. Your eyes scan the undergrowth. Today's task is foraging, mushrooms, roots, herbs. Nothing for pleasure, everything for need. Sage for the sick room, fennel for digestion. Elderberry if the season permits. You kneel near a patch of brambles. Something edible may lie beneath. Carefully, you part the thorns and find wild garlic. You cut at the base, mindful not to pull the whole plant. The rule says waste is a form of pride. Nearby, Brother Thomas is digging beneath the roots of a fallen tree. You watch as he lifts something small and pale. Wood ear fungus, perhaps. He nods once, brushes the dirt from his hands, and tucks it into his satchel. The oldest among you, Brother Alric, serves as silent guide. He knows this forest like scripture. He moves with reverence, touching bark, lifting leaves, muttering prayers under his breath. Prayers not from the liturgy, but older, handed down from monks long buried. You step deeper. There are ruins here, fragments of stone, choked by ivy. A collapsed shrine, a marker cross, its arm broken. No one speaks of them. Perhaps they belong to another order. Or perhaps no one remembers. A rustle in the trees halts you. You freeze. A deer steps through a shaft of light. It watches you with wide eyes unmoving. You lower your gaze. This moment is not yours to possess. The deer turns bounds into shadow. Further in, Brother Edric finds mushrooms. He gestures to you to check them. You kneel beside him, inspecting the caps, the gills. Poisonous, you shake your head. He buries them beneath leaves, a quiet act of mercy. The sun rises behind the trees, turning dew to steam. You are sweating now, thirsty, but no one drinks until the work is done. Hunger is a companion here, a reminder of the body's limits. You reach the edge of the stream. Its water runs fast, cold, clean. Brother Alric fills a gourd. You take only a mouthful, then rinse your hands, watching the dirt swirl away. The baskets are nearly full. Wild mint rose hips, a single truffle found by scent and instinct. It will be dried and saved for the infirmary. The flavor a gift for a dying man who can no longer chew. The walk back is quieter still, not from fatigue but absorption. The forest does not simply give, it changes you. By the time the walls of the monastery reappear through the trees, you feel both lighter and older. You re-enter through the gate in silence. The others peel away to their chores. You carry the basket to the kitchen door where a novice receives it without thanks. Thanks are not required, your sandals are stained, your hands scratched, but your mind is calm. Tomorrow you will not go into the woods. Tomorrow you will be sent to the infirmary, where the breath of the dying will warm your cheeks, where scripture and rot share the same room. You do not knock before entering. There are no locked doors in the monastery, but the infirmary is not like the others. You step inside and the smell strikes you first. It is not the stench of filth, there is no filth here. Everything is scrubbed with vinegar and sage water. But sickness has a scent of its own, a heaviness in the air, sweet and sour damp wool. Dried blood, something beneath the surface of human breath. The light is soft, filtered through oiled parchment stretched across the windows. Dust floats in the beams like holy incense. You move quietly between the pallets. Low wooden platforms arranged against the walls, each one covered with a thin mat and a folded blanket. Some are empty, others hold men. Some whisper psalms in fevered Latin. Others do not speak at all. You greet the monk in charge, Brother Gervais. He has served here for decades. He is not a physician, not by any worldly title, but his hands know where to press, where to lance, when to pray, and when to wait. He nods to you, no words. He points to a bucket in the corner. Fresh water needs fetching. Then he gestures toward a bowl of herbs, yarrow, horehound, comfrey. You recognize their uses. You made the salve yesterday. You begin your tasks, you clean wounds. You press linen strips soaked in wine over open sores. You help lift a fevered brother so his bedding can be changed. His skin is hot to the touch. His breath rattles like grain in a jar. He does not recognize you, that is normal. You do not come here for recognition. When the bell rings for terce, you do not go. You pray where you stand, hands stained with balm and blood. Your prayers are simple, not for miracles. For mercy, for rest, for the pain to ease. You feed a dying monk, Brother Aldwin. He was once strong, oversaw the vineyards. Now he cannot lift his head. You spoon barley gruel into his mouth. He swallows barely. When he coughs, you wipe his chin. He grips your wrist just for a moment. His eyes are clear, he does not speak, but you understand. You stay beside him until his breathing slows. You hum a chant under your breath. Not one from the Psalter, one older, learned from Brother Alric, who learned it from someone long dead. When Brother Aldwin's breath ceases, you do not weep. You press his eyes shut, you cross his hands, you whisper his name. Then you wash the body. You do not do it quickly, you do it carefully. Later you will carry him to the crypt with the help of 2 others. But for now he remains here, draped in the blanket he was given at his vows. Brother Gervais places a sprig of rosemary at his side. In the afternoon, more tasks await. You clean chamber pots, mix tinctures, refill oil lamps. You copy the symptoms of one brother's cough into a ledger. It will be read by a traveling physician in spring, perhaps. Or not, you boil linens. The steam chokes the room, you sweat. Your robe clings to your back. One novice vomits repeatedly. You hold the basin. He apologizes, you shake your head. You do not judge the weak. You tend to them, that is the work. When the sun begins to lower, the light shifts. You open the shutters a crack. Cool air rushes in, swirling the scent of rosemary and fever. Brother Gervais touches your shoulder. He hands you a folded scrap of vellum. A name is written there, you nod. It means the grave must be prepared. Tonight after Compline you will dig, and tomorrow you will wake again, still sore, and be sent somewhere else. Because even death does not interrupt the rhythm. You do not flinch at the cold anymore. The spade bites into the earth with a dull crunch and you bend to lift the soil. one shovelful then another. The grave is not deep yet, only ankle high, but your breath already steams in the air. The sun has dipped beyond the wall. The monastery is quiet. No one speaks of it, but every brother digs. Eventually, you are not alone. Another novice joins you, Brother Thomas, his robes muddied, his eyes downcast. He doesn't complain. You nod to each other, and together the grave deepens. The ground is hard. Last year's frost has never fully left. Beneath the thin topsoil lies clay, wet, heavy, and resistant. Each scoop sticks to the spade like dough. You scrape it off, press again, scrape again. Silence save for the rhythm of breath and metal and stone. You remember Brother Aldwin, the way he looked at the end, the blanketed form, the scent of rosemary. You wonder how long he will be remembered. A season, a year? A name in the book, a flicker in the prayers. No headstones here, just wooden markers carved with the sign of the cross and a name that fades faster than the wood weathers. The dead belong not to memory but to the rule. In death as in life, equal, silent, surrendered. When the grave is ready, you carry the body with 4 others. It is not heavy. The sickness took much. The procession is wordless. No wailing, no hymn. Just the sound of sandals on wet earth. You lower him in one end then the other. He lies curled as if sleeping. You cross his arms one last time. The abbot says a brief prayer. Words that seem more for the living than the dead. Then the earth returns, you fill it slowly. With care, no one rushes. The act is a prayer in itself. When it's done, you plant the marker, a simple post. You press it firm. Later, the grave will receive moss. Rain, maybe snow.
You wash the spades, wipe your hands on the grass.
Your robe is soiled, your knees ache, your palms blister. But this is not penance, this is duty. The next morning, you rise as usual. The bell tolls matins. Chant. Light through the high chapel windows. You stand beside Brother Thomas. He does not speak. Neither do you. But he knows you both dug the same grave. The memory stays, not sharp but settled. Like sediment in a cup of wine. Over time, you come to understand that the graveyard is not separate from the monastery. It is part of it. As constant as the herb garden or the scriptorium or the bell tower. A part of the rhythm. At Sext, you are reassigned. Today, the abbot has chosen you to serve in the tower, to tend the bell ropes. You bow, you accept, and so now we ascend, step by worn step, spiraling upward into the oldest part of the monastery, where stone turns slick with age, and time is marked not by sun or sand, but by the tolling of iron and echo.
The steps narrow as you climb. Each is slightly concave from centuries of feet, worn smooth by sandals and weight. One hand traces the inner wall, damp with age, while the other lifts your robe just enough to keep from tripping. The monastery bell tower is not majestic. It is practical. Stone stacked on stone, mortar weathered, wooden beams creaking under their own memory. But to enter it is to rise above the silence, to stand where the hours are born. You do not climb for the view. The view is mist, slate roofs, distant trees, and the graveyard you dug the night before. You climb for duty. You climb for rhythm. At the top, the bells wait. Not gilded, not polished, but massive, heavy, sacred. Forged of bronze and soot, they hang suspended by age-darkened beams and rusting iron bolts. Each one has a name, and though none are spoken aloud, the largest is known only as the voice. You step into the chamber and bow, as if before an altar. The sound here is strange, the way it swallows your breath. You test the ropes gently. Each is thick as your wrist, threaded through wooden pulleys. You feel their tension, the weight above, waiting to fall into song. You were chosen because your hands are steady, because your timing is precise. The bell is not rung with strength. It is rung with surrender. A rhythm, not a strike. A pulse, not a blow. You wrap the rope around your forearm and begin. Once for terce the 3rd hour. It rings low and wide, spreading across the hills like smoke. Crows rise from the orchard. Sheep stir in the distant pasture. Then again for the dead, for Brother Aldwin. You do not need to be told when. You just know. One solemn toll, longer and slower. It echoes once, twice, then fades. It is not a farewell. It is an inclusion. The bell marks everything. Prayer meal, death.birth, firestorm. It tells the world that life continues, within these walls and without. You sit by the open slat looking down through time. The chapel below like a miniature. The gardens, symmetrical and still. The cloister walkways worn to memory, it feels far away. But this bell, this moment, is the heart. You are not allowed to sleep here. But you often doze between tolls. Not quite asleep, not quite awake. the hum of the bell still vibrating in your chest. Your dreams are strange in the tower, full of echoes, full of wings. Once during a storm, lightning struck nearby. The crack made the air go white. You didn't cry out, but you felt your soul tremble. And then, as always, the bell steadied it. Even when no one hears it, the bell still matters. Because it was rung, because it was witnessed. You descend slowly, feet finding the same grooves. No need to look. Your body remembers. Outside, the sky is shifting. Afternoon leans toward dusk. You return your robe to its hooks, rinse your hands in the cold basin. You pause for a moment beside the cloister arch, where ivy creeps through the cracks. Tomorrow, another brother will climb those steps. Another hand will grip the rope. The sound will change slightly. Every monk leaves a different signature in the swing. But tonight it was yours. And now, your feet turn toward a new task. The abbot has summoned you to the cellar, not for discipline, but to assist the cellarer himself. The keeper of stores, of barley and oil and secrets. So descend we shall beneath the monastery, where silence is not broken, only stored.
The door to the undercroft groans as it opens, iron hinges resisting as if to remind you. Below is not above. Light does not live here, not fully. You descend behind the cellarer, careful not to step too close. His gait is slow, deliberate. He carries a single oil lamp, the flame cradled in glass. Its glow casts long shadows flickering against the damp stone walls. You pass under an archway ribbed like the underside of a beast. The air smells of old grain, fermented apple, mold, and the faintest trace of wax. Cool, wet stone breathes against your skin. It is neither warm nor cold, only ancient. Here, in the belly of the monastery, lies the memory of every harvest. You arrive in the first chamber. Barrels line the wall, each marked with a date, a symbol, sometimes a Latin phrase etched in red. The cellarer pauses, checking each one with the back of his hand. He does not speak, but you know what to do. You tap the barrels, listening for sound. Full barrels thud low, half-empty ones echo hollow. You note them on a wax tablet, a system older than both of you. Beyond the barrels lie sacks of grain, stored on wooden pallets to keep the rats out. You inspect each one, eyes trained to spot the signs, moisture, weevils, gnaw marks. Nothing is wasted. A single spoiled sack can breed ruin. The cellarer grunts once, a signal. You follow him into the preserve stores. Smoked eels, dried beans, onions braided and hung from wooden beams. You carry a tally inked with goose feather, tracking what enters, what leaves, and when. He unlocks the small iron-bound chest and the spice box. Inside, black pepper, cloves, mustard seed, and saffron kept in cloth pouches. Their scent rises sharp, sacred, shocking in its contrast. This is not for daily use. This is for feast days, for honored guests, for the Eucharist itself. Deeper still, the wine room. Stone shelves cradle bottles sealed with wax, each one angled precisely. Candles are not allowed here, only the lamp. You steady it as he uncorks a bottle for inspection. The scent rises, bitter, tart, tinged with oak and thyme. He nods, you reseal it. There is a room even deeper, the vault. Only the abbot and the cellarer may enter. You have seen the door once. Iron-banded, locked with 3 mechanisms. Some say it holds relics. Others say it holds money. You do not ask, you do not linger. Instead, you return to the root cellar. You count turnips, leeks, parsnips stacked in straw. You check the apples for rot. You gather the bruised ones, not to be discarded, but made into cider. Everything here is transformation. The cellarer trains you not just in inventory, but in care. You learn to listen for leaks, to smell mildew before it blooms, to test for grain too moist or wine too flat. This is not bookkeeping, it is stewardship. You are being prepared. He gestures toward the back wall where candles are dipped and soap is cured. Tomorrow, he says, the first word all day, we render the tallow. You nod, that too is part of the rhythm. You return above with the lamp extinguished. You climb slowly, carrying nothing but the faint warmth of lard and the memory of stone. By the time you emerge, Vespers is near. The bell calls. The sky is bruising with sunset. Brothers file toward the chapel. You join them, your hands still smelling faintly of cloves and barley. You bow before the altar, you kneel in place, and as you chant the psalm, Domine, ad adjuvandum me festina, your mind drifts to the root cellar where even the turnips have been catalogued and blessed. But this night is not done, because tomorrow brings a visitor, a noble patron, and you've been chosen to assist in the guest's reception, to prepare the refectory, to serve without error, and to listen for once to a voice from beyond the cloister walls. The bell tolls none too early, and already the guest is near. You are sent to the outer gate, not to greet, but to observe. A rider dismounts, handing off reins to a stable boy. His boots are clean despite the road. His cloak is velvet. Dust clings to it in perfect geometry, as if even travel dared not wrinkle his pride. He is not royalty, but close enough to matter. A minor lord with holdings nearby. His donation built the new apse. His coin keeps the candles burning. His words and even whispered travel. You bow as he passes deeply. He does not acknowledge it. The porter receives him, a brief exchange. Then the noble is ushered inward. He leaves behind the world's noise at the gate, and yet carries it with him like perfume. You are summoned by the guest master, a monk whose voice you've never heard raised. His eyes scan the corridor as you walk beside him. No errors, he says simply. First, you prepare the refectory. The benches are scrubbed, the tablecloths pressed. 2 beeswax candles are placed, not 1. His bowl is ceramic, not wood. Wine is poured, not just water. You bring in warmed bread, lentils with rosemary, and dried plums from the cellar. No meat, even nobles bend to fast days. But his food is arranged with care. His spoon polished, his napkin folded. When he enters, he bows, a nod, not a devotion. You serve in silence. He eats slowly, but his eyes wander. He asks questions, not of you, but about you. How many brothers reside here? How long is your vow? Do you copy books or just chant them? You do not speak. The guest master answers with practiced calm. We pray for the souls of all who dwell in this valley. The noble nods as if that explains everything. He tours the scriptorium. He admires the gold leaf on the latest psalter. He touches nothing, but his breath fogs the vellum. He is shown the herb garden, the fish pond, the chapel. He says little, but you watch his eyes note every stone, every cross, every flaw. At Vespers he does not kneel, but he stands respectfully. The chant continues around him, wrapping him in syllables he cannot understand. He closes his eyes briefly. Whether in reverence or boredom, you cannot tell. That night he sleeps in the guest cell. His bedding is fresh, his robe hung on a wooden peg. You stand outside as instructed in case he wakes. He doesn't. In the morning you serve him again, this time eggs and milk and honey if he desires it. He does, then he meets with the abbot. You are not present for this. But the donation box is opened afterward. The coin is heavy. The prayer afterward heavier still. Before he leaves, he turns once to look back at the cloister. The bells toll again, this time for terce. He smiles faintly. Strange place, he murmurs, peaceful. Then he mounts and rides away. You watch the dust trail vanish behind the trees. By midday, the refectory is cleaned again. The candles trimmed, the napkins boiled. The memory of his presence is folded away like a guest robe. But the rhythm resumes. Tonight, you will chant Compline beside the same brothers on the same stones. You will kneel in the same place. And tomorrow you will rise before the bell, because you've been assigned to the chapter house, where silence is not just practice, but law. Where judgment is rendered, where brothers come to confess, to repent, to be forgiven, or not. You enter barefoot. The stone beneath your soles feels colder here, as if the air itself hesitates. No candles burn. No incense softens the space. Only gray light seeps through the arched window, and the sound of your own breath. The chapter house is round. Its walls echo everything. A single cough resounds like thunder. A sigh feels like confession. You sit on the low stone bench that rings the room, joining the other brothers in silence. No one looks directly at one another. The abbot enters last. His footsteps are unhurried. He does not need to command silence. Silence already rules here. He stands in the center of the circle. In one hand, he holds the rule. In the other, a folded scrap of parchment, a name written upon it. Today, he begins, and we speak of failure. It is not spectacle. It is not shame for entertainment, but it is real. The failure is real. The man beside you, Brother Elred, has fallen asleep 3 times during matins. Someone noticed, someone reported it. It might have been you. He rises, bowing low. He speaks only once, mea culpa. My fault, the abbot nods. 1 day of silent penance. A soft judgment, a measured correction. A reminder, a mercy. Brother Elred bows again and returns to his place, but now he will not be permitted to speak even during confession. He will eat last, he will not copy texts. He will not be greeted by name. Another rises, a younger brother. His hands tremble. The accusation is different, failing to complete a labor task. Stones were left uncut, a deadline passed. This time the tone is firmer. 3 days penance, no food at midday. No writing, it continues. No lashes, no shouts. but the weight of discipline hangs heavier than whips. The rule is not enforced by fear, but by a deeper obedience. You do not fear pain. You fear being removed from the rhythm, from the circle, from the belonging you surrendered the world for. Then, silence again. The abbot reads a passage from the rule. Today it is on humility. You listen closely, everyone does, because the words cut deeper than punishment. He who exalts himself shall be humbled, he reads, and he who humbles himself shall be exalted. You recite it inwardly, you feel it settle into your ribs. When the reading ends, the abbot leaves. One by one, each brother rises and files out, no word spoken. Some with lighter steps, some heavier. But not you. You have been asked to stay. Your work yesterday in cleaning the altar cloths was thorough. But one was not returned in time. The sacristan reported it, you had no excuse. The abbot does not raise his voice. Why was it delayed? You answer honestly. It had torn, my lord. I mended it before returning it. He pauses, nods. That is just, but next time report it first. Yes, my lord. No penance, he says. But let this be written in your own rule. Obedience includes communication. You bow deeply. As you rise, he looks at you, truly looks, and you sense the weight behind his words. Go, he says, and serve with more than your hands. You leave the chapter house in silence, but your chest is tight. Not with shame, with resolve. This afternoon your hands will be needed elsewhere. The bell will ring. You will follow it through the cloister, through the herb garden, to the solarium, the storehouse of the monastery, where barley is counted, wine measured, salt preserved, where the invisible infrastructure of holy life is held together by grain, clay, and care. The sun has begun to retreat behind the high monastery walls, leaving behind long shadows that stretch across the flagstone. Evening draws near. The light softens, but inside the cloister the weight of discipline never loosens. You hear it, not a clang but a gentle bell, a singular tone, clear and resonant. It signals correction, not for the whole community but for one. Quiet punishment is woven into the monastic order, not as retribution but as refinement. Tonight it is Brother Thomas. You do not ask what he has done. You do not need to. His eyes are cast downward. His steps are measured, as always. But instead of turning toward Vespers with the rest, he is guided toward the chapter house, the place where rules are read and faults confessed. You know this space well. You've been there too. The chapter house is simple. Stone benches line the walls. The abbot sits at the center beneath a crucifix carved from darkened wood. No one speaks until called. When Brother Thomas is addressed, he rises slowly. He bows. He admits his fault. Perhaps a broken silence, a missed labor, or a moment of pride during chant. There is no dramatic confrontation. No harsh voice. The abbot nods. The others say nothing. Then the punishment is spoken, a penance proportionate and purposeful. Perhaps he will sit at the floor of the refectory for a week, eating only bread. Perhaps he will work the coldest job at dawn, cleaning latrines or digging graves. Perhaps he will be forbidden to chant, the hardest of all for a man who lives through sound. But he accepts it, as you did when your time came. No protest, no defense. Punishment is seen not as shame but as restoration, a way to be made clean again. After the chapter meeting, Brother Thomas rejoins you for Vespers, but in a different position. At the back of the chapel, his voice silent, his head low. He is present but not whole. Not yet. You pray together. The chant flows over him, it flows over you. The Latin verses carry a rhythm that erases edges, softening the memory of mistakes. You pray not only for the world but for each other, especially for the ones who falter. You remember too what it felt like to be watched. Not with judgment, but with quiet hope, that you would endure, that you would return. When the service ends, Brother Thomas remains in his place. Others file out without speaking. You pass him slowly. You do not meet his eyes. You do not need to. The ritual of correction has begun. In time, he will be welcomed back as before, as you were, as others will be. Discipline in the monastery is not meant to break the spirit. It is meant to smooth it, like water shaping stone. And so the days continue. Outside, dusk deepens. The air is cool again. The bell for the final meal rings low and soft. But before we eat and before we sleep, and we follow one more path through these worn corridors, to the novices, to those who are still learning how to surrender their lives. One quiet step at a time. Let us walk beside them now. Imagine a narrow cloister tucked just beyond the main courtyard, set apart by low stone walls and a gate that rarely swings open. This is the space for novices, the unformed, the unfinished, the watching. Those not yet monks, not yet bound, not yet erased. You see them from time to time. Heads bowed, feet shuffling, robes not yet worn thin. They mimic the patterns of the elders, echo the chants a beat too slow, spill water when washing the cups. They are here to unlearn themselves. Each novice arrives carrying the dust of another life. A fisherman's son, a younger brother spared the sword. A boy who once whistled in fields or shouted at dogs. That voice must go, that name will go too.
In time, the novice master, stern but not unkind, watches them closely.
Every morning he assigns their duties. One to scrub the refectory benches with vinegar and sand. One to carry laundry to the stream.
One to follow the cook and learn the silent rhythm of steam, ladle, fire, and hunger.
They are not yet permitted to write. First, they must master posture, attention, the turning of a page without creasing its edge. For now, they copy verses only in their heads, psalms repeated until the tongue forgets it ever said anything else. When a novice falters, when his eyes wander, or he stands when he should kneel, he is corrected with a gesture, a glance. Sometimes a silent point toward the stone bench where he will sit in isolation. No words, no meals with the others. Only reflection. Their robes are plain, undyed the color of dust. A reminder, you are not yet part of the living body. You are still becoming. Some novices do not remain. They weep in the early days, struggle to sleep in the silence, miss the taste of salted meat or the feel of sun on bare skin. Some are sent away, not punished, just gently removed. The monastery does not force the soul, it waits for surrender. But those who remain, who scrub and chant and hold their tongue, they begin to fade into the rhythm. One day they are told they may enter the oratory alone. Another day they are given a candle to carry. Another, they are handed a single word from the Psalms and asked to speak on it. Not for show, but to see what lingers beneath their silence. It can take a year, or 3 or more. The rule is clear: test the heart, test the body, test the will. Eventually, if the time is right, a novice is summoned by the abbot. He kneels. He is asked, do you wish to be tried? Not, do you wish to join? Not, are you ready? Only, will you be tried? And if he says yes, the door to his old life closes soundlessly. His hair is cut again, his name changed. He receives a robe, not warm, not new, but his. And that is the last object he will ever own. You may notice years later a monk whose posture is slightly different, whose Latin bears a trace of an old accent. You will not ask where he came from, and he will never tell. In the cloistered world of stone and psalm, the past is not denied, it is dissolved, replaced by obedience, repetition, and the deep, quiet work of erasing the self. Now, we return to the main dormitory once more, where the day ends as it began, with stillness, with ritual, with a breath between prayers. And with that, we'll move into our final segment, the quiet descent into Compline, and what it means to give your whole life to silence. Imagine the long corridor dimly lit by tallow lamps. Shadows stretch along the stone, flickering across the robes of figures walking slowly, barefoot, shoulder to shoulder. No one speaks. Even the sound of their breathing feels sacred now. You are one of them. Years have passed. You no longer count them. Your movements are quiet, practiced, unhurried. You carry no burden, no voice, no past. Only the weight of the day swept away in chant, in work, in waiting. It is the hour of Compline, the final prayer of the night. Not a farewell to the day, but a returning to the source. The oratory smells of beeswax, of old stone warmed faintly by breath and candlelight. No incense tonight. Only the raw quiet of bodies lowered into place. The hymn begins, Te Lucius ante terminum. Before the ending of the day, your voice joins the others. Not louder, not softer, not distinct. A single strand in the fabric of unity. The words are always the same. A lullaby for the soul, asking for protection through the night from evil dreams, from the terror of the dark, from the self. When it ends, there is no applause, no acknowledgement. You bow once deeply, then rise, stepping back into the dim hall as the abbot sprinkles holy water over the threshold. A simple rite, the closing of the gate. In the dormitory, the mats are already laid. Not beds, just straw wrapped in linen. You return to your place without needing to look. You know every inch of this space. The crack in the stone near your head. The sound the wind makes under the north-facing eave. You remove your sandals, loosen the rope. Fold your robe once carefully and lie down flat on your back. There is no pillow, no privacy. No complaint, a single candle remains. It is not blown out. It is left to burn down on its own. A symbol, Light fading not because it is snuffed, but because its work is done. You do not speak to the brother beside you. You do not think of the world outside the walls. There is no marketplace, no family, no ambition. You have left those behind like footprints washed away by the tide. Instead, you pray silently from within. Words you no longer need to remember. They rise from your chest like breath. You ask for a holy death, not just in the body, but in the will, in the ego, in the endless noise of self. This is the purpose of the rule, to strip away distraction, to build a ladder of silence by which the soul might climb. One prayer, one task, one surrender at a time. As the final light wavers and gutters, the dormitory becomes a tomb of peace. No dreams are spoken here, no names whispered. Only the steady rhythm of breath echoing across stone. And somewhere in the distance an owl calls. The world continues on without you. But here, the soul rests. Amen.